To start the technical session, today we are having Professor Niranjan Roy, who is from economics. So let me briefly introduce him before he takes over for the technical session. Professor and former head Department of Economics at Assam University. He has 31 years of teaching and research experience. He is also a former dean of the School of Economics and Commerce of Assam University. He was Director, Internal Quality Assurance Cells, IQAC of Assam University during July 2009 to February 2013. He was Registrar in Charge during October 2011 to April 2015. He has kept interest on quality issues in higher education and presented research papers in international conferences and published many articles on these issues and published an edited volume of higher education in India. Different perspectives. So he is associated with National Assessment and Accreditation Council, NAC, Bangalore, for the last 1 decade and already visited 36 institutions as peer team member. He was a member in a committee for formulation of IQAC manuals and its modalities by NAC. He is the recipient of European Union's Erasmus Mundus Fellowship for visiting Göttingen University, Germany during the year 2015 to 16 for the postdoctoral studies. He has published 11 books and 91 research papers, including articles and book chapters. He has completed 7 research projects funded by different organizations. Under his supervision, 21 scholars received PhD and 6 scholars awarded MPhil degrees. I welcome Professor Niranjan Roy, sir, to take over the session.
Thank you, Dibjyoti. Whether my slide is visible?
Yes, sir, your slide is visible. You can make the full view show so that entire it becomes full screen.
Yeah. Is it okay?
Yeah, now it's okay, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your nice introduction, and respective participants across different institutions in India. It is really a privilege for me to be a part of this AICTE sponsored program. It's a wonderful opportunity by the AICTE for arranging this research methodology workshop. I was also a part of another such program in the last month. So to start with, I think this is the first session I have been given the opportunity to start. So I have selected the topic, different approaches to scientific research. So while saying scientific research, my entire presentation will be focused on social research. So scientific social research, because it's part of social sciences, humanities, and other allied disciplines. We are actually confronted with the question of the nature of scientific social research and what is the methodology and how to go about in a structured manner for undertaking social research and what will be its objectivity. So basically, research is a systematic inquiry made to public. Now this, the last two words is very, very interesting. Made to public. I can do a research, but I am not interested to make it public. But if you look at the whole genesis of scientific research, the entire government of research, if you do not share the findings, then how the society will be benefited? That is the entire crux of the issue of, making it to the public. And that is why nowadays UGC has also come up with a regulation that as part of our MPhil or PhD research, we must publish 2 or 3 articles. We must present papers in conferences, seminars, and workshops, and that will be a part of the eligibility for awarding the research degrees. So that is a very important paradigm shift in this context of this making this research funding public mandatorily by the UGC regulatory authorities and also AICTE. Now, what are the if you are not interested to undertake a research, then what are the alternatives to gain our knowledge, and how we can emphasize on knowledge gaining exercise? Newman has given 5 different aspects of gaining knowledge: authority, tradition, common sense, media, public experience, personal experience related to an individual. So these are the ways, these are the important aspect of gaining knowledge. Instead of if we do not undertake any research. Now the question is, why then research? Why we will undertake a scientific research? What are the important paradigm in taking up a research project? Because as I said, that the entire notion of scientific social research is basically related to the search of some problem area with an ultimate intent of contributing to the corpus of scientific knowledge which is available to the world. So that is very important issue, that we are to identify the problem. We have to, go through some ultimate intent of the contributing some corpus of the knowledge that is available in that particular, and whereby we know as part of our research, review of literature, identification of research gap, and then bridging the research gap. Because ultimately, what you do as a researcher at the end of the day, to bridge the gap, to bridge the research gap, that is the contribution of an individual researcher in any research project, research topic. Now, having said that, one of the very interesting aspect of historical method, historical research, whereby we basically use some primary historical data to answer a question. Just now I said that we have to identify a research problem, and we have to deal with this particular research problem, and that is very important part in the social science, which is actually related and linked to the social research, and that is the fundamental aspect of the scientific social research. And in this particular historical research, basically the nature of the data, it depends on the question being asked. As I just said, you have to identify a problem. So the question being asked, and data, maybe your demographic record, maybe birth, death certificates, newspaper articles, letters, n number of data sources are available, and newspaper article, letters, diaries, government records, or even archival drawings, archival data. Now, sorry, 3 broad questions are related in this entire task. The first issue is whether our data, which is appropriate to the theoretical question being asked, because ultimately theory building is one of the very, very important aspect in this entire research, because theorizing social research, knowledge in social science, basically organized in terms of theory building. Basically a social theory which is defined as a system of interconnected abstraction or ideas that actually condense and organized knowledge about the social world. So we must have some understanding about the social world, and social theory is basically is like a map of social world, and it also helps to visualize the complexity of the world, complexity of the social world, and explains why things happen. And that is, as I just said, the problem. When you identify a problem, you are also to answer the question why problem arises. Okay, then this second issue, the second question, how are these data originally collected, or these particular meanings were embedded in different terms of the collection. So we're in the process of the collection of data, collection of records. We are also to look at the originality. We are also to look at the third important issue, that how it is interpreted, or what are the meanings of this data, and how data to hold now. What is the implication of these data, historical facts, historical records in the at the present context? What is the relevance? And that is why this key question, key objective of this historical research is basically the past. We have to connect to the past and incident of the past, what happened during colonial rule in India, what happened during freedom struggle, what happened during 6,000 years back. Now you know that we have come to know that 6,000 years back, India was Vishwaguru. India was rich in all fields of knowledge, all fields of scientific knowledge. The first university in the world was actually established in India. It evolved, university as a concept actually evolved in India. Now, unfortunately, over the course of time, we found degeneration happens and deceleration happen. And as a result, we now struggle to find our place in the context of the universities, to be in the Times Higher ranking, to be in the QS, educational ranking. And a few of universities, our 900 or 1,000 universities are in the, a few of them are in the 1,000 in world's best 1,000 universities ranking. So these are the contexts that now we are relooking the entire exercise, the entire paradigm, and that is why the National Education Policy 2020 has been devised, has been designed in such a way that India should regain its past glory. So the study of the past, the Nalanda, Takshila, Vikramshila, these are very, very significant, relevant in the context of knowing the present, situation, the relevance of the present education system, education status, and for better understanding with this knowledge of the past. And that is why the people and societies which are the part of the entire exercise needs to be taken into account. And that is why theorizing social research, knowledge in social science, and theory building, as I say, social theory, these are very important contexts. And that is why in course of our identification of a problem, we must also look at the theoretical perspective, the conceptual framework, because the theory provides the basic basis of the scientific knowledge of the social, and it produced social research. And as theory has an important role in research, so it is essential to ally in various types of research. And but some types of the research, of course, is present in most social research. I will come to that particular issues after 2-3 slides. Now, there are 7 steps in the context of the historical research begin with a focusing question, the identification of the problem, specify the domain for an inquiry, then gathering evidence using both primary and secondary sources that we will discuss after 2-3 slides again. Then the critique the evidence, is it authentic and credible? Someone can question whether Nalanda University was there or not. So is it authentic? Is it credible? There are evidences, there are archival sources, there are remains of the sites where Nalanda has re-established, the university has been re-established now again. So these are the important issues as a researcher, because you have to look at the authenticity, you have to look at the credibility, and that is why the scientific methodology, and I use the word scientific social research, and which actually depend on the scientific methodology, and scientific methodology which is a part of the entire exercise of this particular research, uh, I mean, which depends on the determining the pattern using inductive reasoning. I will discuss this point and tell the story, write the transcript. These are some of the part of this entire exercise. And I will just keep this particular slide. Now, coming to the most important issue, as I said, scientific social research. So there are some common classification, because as I say, some researchers, they actually focus on using research to advance generalization. Okay, they seek an understanding of the fundamental nature of social reality. Try to understand. Some researchers mainly focus on using the research to advance generalization. Okay, and it actually seeks an understanding of the fundamental nature of social reality. And such type of research is called basic research, or theoretical research, or fundamental research, or academic research. Okay, and these are the important issues in this case of advancing or taking up the generalization of the result. Secondly, the second issue, other researchers, some other researchers, they actually use research to solve some specific social problem, because we are dealing with social problem and we should deal this social problem scientifically. We have identified the problem and now we have to deal with this scientifically, taking up some scientific research methodology. So some researchers, they actually use their research to solve some specific problem, and they are more like activist, pragmatic, and reform oriented. Okay, so they do not believe in generalization, advancing generalization. So they are actually dealing with some specific issues, specific problems, and this type of research is called applied research. Now, applied research, which just now I say that basic research and applied research, or pure research, theoretical research, fundamental research, these belong to the same category: pure, basic, theoretical, fundamental, or academic research. Applied research, which has three important components: action research, evaluation research, impact assessment research. Now, basic research advances, just now I said, fundamental knowledge about the social world. Fundamental knowledge about the social world. So it speaks something about the generalization. It focuses on refuting or supporting theories that explains how the social world operates, what makes things happen, why social relations are of a certain way and why society changes. Okay, try to understand the question. How the social world operates, what makes how what makes things happen, and why social problems are of a certain type, and why society changes. So how, what, why, these are the important contexts of a specific, fundamental knowledge. And this basic research is the source of most scientific research ideas and ways of thinking about the world. Okay, so these are the broad concept of these, basic research. And there are three different parts of components of these basic research: exploratory in nature, descriptive in nature, explanatory in nature. I will come to that distinction after that. Now, applied research, just now I say that it basically attempts to solve specific policy problems, or it helps practitioners to accomplish a particular task. It is frequently descriptive research, and its main strength in its immediate practical use. So we need some kind of a findings which are of immediate value. Say, for example, Jandan Yojana, which are being implemented by this government for increasing inclusivity, financial inclusivity. So if we need a data on feedback of this particular program, we can undertake a research on this inclusivity, financial inclusivity, and we can identify a particular area. We can undertake a survey, and we can come up with a particular finding. So this is the important issue of this particular applied research. Now, applied research may be action research, as I said, evaluation research, and impact assessment research. Now, action research is basically is a part of applied research that treats knowledge as a form of power. Knowledge as a form of power, and abolishes the link between research and social action. Now, basically, those who are being studied participate in the research process. So in action research, those who are being studied participate in the research process. Just now I give the example on financial inclusivity. So we undertake, we survey among the people where this project was implemented, and we undertake a particular survey on a particular area. So they participate in the research process, and research incorporates ordinary or popular knowledge. Research focuses on power with the goal of empowerment. Research also seeks to raise consciousness or increase awareness, and it is tied directly to political action. So some kind of it is directed towards some kind of political or governmental action. So this is the main important part of the action research. And many of our researchers in the field of economics, commerce, management, they deal with more of action research as compared to basic research. And our scholars, they are interested to undertake action research, which is of immense utility for governmental policy decisions, and it impact on the directly to taking up some policy decision paradigm. Now coming to evaluation research. Evaluation research, it basically measures the effectiveness of a program. effectiveness of a program, effectiveness of a policy or way of doing something. It is a kind of evaluating a particular project, evaluating a particular scheme, and it is frequently descriptive, but it can also be exploratory and explanatory. I will come to that particular question about the exploratory or explanatory research. Then evaluation research may be formative or summative also, and this formative evaluation is basically built in monitoring or continuous feedback on a program used for program management. So it is a continuous feedback on a particular program used for program management. And summative evaluation looks at final program outcomes. Okay, what is the net outcomes of the program? What is the net outcome of the passed out student of MBA, Master of Business Administration? What is the job availability, job placement? Okay, so then coming to the impact assessment research, this is basically social impact. As I said, we are dealing with scientific social research. So basically this impact assessment, I mean social impact assessment. So this social impact assessment, the main purpose is to estimate the likely consequences of a planned change, likely consequences of a planned change. So earlier we had a different system of socialistic pattern of society. Immediately after planning in India, we follow the path of socialism, socialistic and mixed economy based economy, where main emphasis was given on the socialism public sector. So a socialistic pattern of society. In 1990s, we switched over to this new reform, liberalized reform, liberalization, privatization, and globalization. So it is a planned change. In 1991, the government has taken decision, the conscious decision by the parliament to switch over from this earlier status to a new free market oriented economy. So this planned change. So such an assessment, it can be used for planning, for making choices among alternative policies and community service, educational achievement, social conditions, economic impact, demographic consequences, environmental status, health outcomes, all are, I mean, there are various issues which are part of the social impact assessment research. And these are of immense value in policy decisions, in policy paradigm. Now, in particular, this, as I said, sorry, as I said, that research by purpose, which is a basic part of this pure or theoretical or fundamental research, whereby we have come across three different components: exploratory research, descriptive research, then explanatory research. So these are the three important part of the component of this research by purpose. And while we say explanatory, it is structural explanation, interpretative explanation, or causal explanation. Now, in exploratory research, the main goal of the researcher is to formulate more precise questions that future research can answer. Okay, so precise questions that future research can answer, and it rarely yields definitive answer. So you you may not end up with a definite answer for this exploratory research. And exploratory researchers are creative, open-minded, and flexible, and they adopt basically an investigative stance and explore all sources of information. Say, for example, the impact of demonetization in the economy. So it is a kind of exploration on the different segment of the society, how it affects the richer class, how it affects the poorer class, how it affects to the different sections of the society, how it affects the different enterprises, how it affects to different business classes, business groups. So all these are basically exploratory in nature, and it frequently the researchers also use the address the question what. So it is a kind of what. So what question? And this number two, the descriptive research, it presents a picture of the specific details of the situation, social setting, or relationship. And in descriptive research, basically we begin with a well-defined subject, and conduct research to describe it accurately. Okay, so your subject should be well defined, your identification of problems should be well defined, and the outcome of a descriptive research is nothing but a detailed picture of the subject. And basically, it deals or focuses on two important aspects: how and who. So, exploratory research, it deals with the question what, and this descriptive research deals with the question how and who. And exploratory research, some kind of explanation, and it builds on the two basic fundamentals: exploration and description. So exploratory research, it builds on two fundamentals, both exploratory kind of research and also descriptive research, and it goes on to identify the reasons, why something occurs. So it deals with why question, and going beyond focusing on a topic, or providing a picture on it. Explanatory research, it looks basically for causes and reasons. Why? Because we are asking the question why. So it basically deals with or looking at the issues of cause and the reasons. Okay? And the desire to know why, to explain, is the main fundamental aspect of the explanatory research. Now, further classifications of research, we can have research by environment, library research, descriptive research, thus now I have spoken, is basically a kind of environmental situation, a particular simulation exercise, where field research, where survey or observation, then research by data, qualitative research, then qualitative field research, historical research, as I have already spoken, quantitative research, experimental research, survey research, content analysis. You have some contents, say for example, these contents are of a nature mostly related to a research technique, which make replicable and valid inferences by interpreting or coding textual materials, and instead of interviewing people or asking them to respond the question, basically in this kind of situation, the investigator using content analysis examines the communications that have been produced at times and places of the identification or going deeper into the research problem. Now, say for example, sabka saath, sabka vikas, sabka vishwas, and now the another thing our Prime Minister has added, sabka prayas, sabka saath, sabka vikas, sabka vishwas, sabka prayas. Now these contents, how you look at this paradigm, look at this particular content, and this is a research topic among the people at large, among the popularity paradigm, and you can look at the popularity of on these particular contents across the country. And these are the important issues that selecting the contents you analyze, and based on your research question, you actually define your units, then develop a set of rules for coding. So in this way, you can go about this type of analysis, research by time. We have cross-sectional data, we have time series data. I'm just focusing on some of the type. Of course, the most important part of this social research, I will come to that particular issue, is basically, you see, these four important types. Descriptive, in case of our social research, is a descriptive analysis, explanatory analysis, survey research, cross-section research, and existing statistics, time series data. If we have a data, secondary data, for last couple of years, we call it time series data. If we conduct a survey on a particular period of time, point of time, we call it cross-section data. And descriptive data, descriptive analysis, and explanatory, these are the broad types of research which we actually in social sciences we follow, social science, humanities, and other allied disciplines. Now, the broad classification between qualitative and quantitative research, which falls under this description or exploration, is basically qualitative aspect. It basically looks at the insight and understanding of the problem, okay, and quantifying the quantitative research is basically generalizes the result from sample to target population. Just now I said that we conduct survey on a section of people to look at the successful implementation of the Jan Dhan Yojana, which is a very important scheme undertaken by the government for financial inclusion. Now, if you look at this particular research, we actually come up with a sample, and we are generalizing, we are actually, from this quantification, we have a target population, and we try to validate our findings to the target population. And in qualitative research, we have a focus group, depth interview, and we have an ethnographical methodology. We use this photo ethnography. And in quantitative research, we deal with survey, we deal with interview, and maybe survey and interview both, the hybrid method. Their feelings, attitude, opinions, or thought of human data is a part of qualitative research. And in quantitative research, hard facts and statistical data. And we deal with quantification of data, statistical data, and explore the discover ideas used in ongoing process. This is a qualitative research. But in case of quantification, we deal with cause and effect relationship between two variables. And mainly in qualitative research, we actually deal with purposive sampling, exploratory research as part of exploratory research. But in quantification, we actually deal with randomness, because we are dealing with a collection of small segment of the population as part of the sample. We are actually validating these results for the entire target population, and that is why it actually, the randomness is very important, and it gives us a conclusive result findings. So these are basically the quantitative and qualitative aspects. In qualitative aspect, basically we have to use our own sense, and accordingly we have to observe the findings, we have to find the conclusion. Now, as I say, that scientific social research, which is basically which is evolved during the 20th century, it actually paved the way for modern social science, the development of modern social science, and the main underlying idea of this random sampling, which was actually used first in agricultural survey, and then it applied to the collection of social facts and structured interview method. We have scientific sampling design. We have questionnaire, which is scientifically designed, standardized question. You can have pilot survey. After piloting, you have identified a research problem, and before going to the field, list the questions, go for pilot survey, and then come up with your final schedules, final questions. So these are all scientific nature, and these evolved during the 20th century, and 1930s. It actually advent of modern survey research in the United States. It is basically deals with the Gallup and Roper polls. Polling survey and scientifically designed survey. Then during the Great Depression, the federal government sponsored research on unemployment. What is the impact of the Great Depression? Then World War II actually gives a formidable boosting towards surveys, which are usually used in the bond purchase, troop morale, attitude towards integration and all that. And it actually helps to develop scientific social survey methodology in course of time. And during 1970s, basically several developments contributed to widespread use of survey, widespread use of this development of this questionnaire, development of high-speed computers for processing data. And nowadays, even our researcher, they don't take this questionnaire which is printed in paper. They carry a tablet, and in this tablet you have all kinds of questions. You just take this tablet and take up your survey. So it is basically possible with the development of technology, high-speed computers for processing of data. Now, this particular program, 5-day program, as I understood, it focus on hands-on training on SPSS, statistical package for social sciences, which is one of the very, very important, significant innovation in the software technology, which has actually contributed significantly in the analytical tools, because once we gather data, what to do with the data? If you do not analyze it, if we do not follow a scientific methodology for analysis of data, then what is we will end up with nothing. We will end up with a misleading result. So that is why these SPSS, like that, many other statistical packages are available nowadays. EBUs are, these are the softwares, many softwares are available now, and SPSS is one of the hands-on software which is user-friendly, and I am sure that at the end of this particular workshop, methodology workshop, you will actually come up with a significant knowledge of using SPSS, statistical package, for analysis of your data. But you have to collect your data. Once your data collection is scientific, once you end up with collection of scientific data, then and then only you will end up with analysis of scientific result, analysis of very good result. So widespread ownership of phones, interviewing. Then nowadays we are getting in this pandemic period, we have find out, we know that many of our researchers, they are now using the schedules sent through these emails. They are sending questions to emails and we are answering that question. So instead of going to field directly, because it is not possible at this point in time to go to the field for collection of data, but we have found out the alternatives. We are using our phone, we are using our internet, we are using Google Forms for finding out, for collecting our data, and this business and government decisions increasingly based on surveys. So we have to undertake the survey, and that is very, very important issue in this entire paradigm of social survey, and that too scientific social survey. Now, if you look at the cycle of scientific social survey, that which is one of the social scientific social research. Now, if you look at the four important aspects that I have taken here, theories, as I said, building theory is very, very important aspect of scientific social research. Hypothesis, observation, and then empirical generalization. So four important aspects in this paradigm. Now, this particular movement from A to B, theories to hypothesis, hypothesis to observation, observation to empirical generalization. So basically, we move from A to B and B to A. If we take A to B and B to A, this is basically, sorry, A to B and B to C, it is basically a deductive hub. And then C to D, that means observation to empirical generalization to theories. Observation to empirical generalization to theories, it is basically inductive hub. Now, what is this particular context of deductive and inductive hub? Now, this inductive hub is basically starting with observations and moving towards empirical generalizations. And it is a little bit difficult exercise, because what is observed, what we are observing, it depends on what researcher wants to observe, and there is no guideline for that, right? How COVID-19 pandemic affected the society. So what you are observing from your field, okay, how the COVID-19 has affected the business, how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected our casual workers, how our COVID-19 affected the daily wager, then some informal job market. So what the researcher wants to observe, so there is no guideline for that. You can just pick up some data, some collection of facts that you can observe, and how effective is your method of observation. And that is very important. Okay, if you are looking at the COVID-19 pandemic, it affects on the society, its effects on the society at large. What is the methodology and what is the method, whether you are actually following some scientific norm of your observation. So that is a very important point of issue, which actually lead to scientific empirical generalization, and ultimately it goes to the theory building. So observation to empirical generalization to theory building. And Karl Popper, a great philosopher, who actually believes that this inductive process is more important than the deductive process. I am coming to this deductive hub, deductive process. But at the same time, Karl Popper also thinks that theories do not automatically follow from empirical generalization. Rather, he actually emphasized, he actually observed that they require creativity, imagination, and even irrationality on the part of the researcher. So all these actually are ultimately gives us to the scientific theory, the building of theory which comes from observation, empirical generalization. Now, deductive half, which the traditional theory, we know the traditional theories, many theories are there, n number of theories are there, and you pick up any theory, you pick up any theory. Now, take up any theory and which the traditional emphasis of the hypothesis, the theory will lead to a hypothesis testing from the basis of this theoretical background. From this theory, it will lead to hypothesis. Okay, poverty, say for instance, absolute poverty, relative poverty, and consumption pattern of the people. We know that if we look at the consumption pattern, if you have higher level of income, the saving propensity is more, actual consumption propensity will be less. But if you have lower level of income, your consumption propensity will be high, saving propensity will be less. So we deduce hypothesis, and it begins, the researcher will begin on the deductive side, starting with the hypothesis and trying to test it by observation. Okay, so trying to test it by observation. And this deductive research must go through some of the important stages, scrutinize the theory for its consistency. We must look at the consistency of the theory, compare it to the other theories to determine whether it is preferable to them, build a hypothesis on the basis of theory, then scrutinize empirical generalization from which the theory was developed, and hypothesis from the theory for basically testing it, for looking at the consistency. And also you have to look at the hypothesis which is available to produce testable predictions and guidelines for that type of observation to be made. So these, with this background, basically we, the individual researcher, we actually start with the hypothesis. We start with the hypothesis, then we'll end up with the observation. And our research mainly basically on this deductive half. Of course, there are many researchers which are also being looking at these important, both these important issues, and this quantification principle, as I just analyzed, it attempts to answer questions by giving more importance to numbers, sizes. So these numbers, sizes, and ultimately the deducing of results are very important. And with this, we come across with numerous data, numerous information, and all this data information we try to convert into numbers, and we try to focus on only measurable data in our scientific research. Measurable data we focus, and we try to gather measurable data, and we will also try to focus on the design which process to measurement of improvement, for measuring improvement, and ultimately we end up with the testing of the hypothesis, because either we have to accept our hypothesis or we have to reject our hypothesis. Say COVID-19 vaccine. So our hypothesis that we should be neutral. Okay, you should be neutral. And after collecting data, first phase trial, second phase trial, third phase trial, we come up with gathering data, so much of data, and which leads to actually testing our hypothesis, testing the validity, and it leads to a conclusion whether the vaccines are effective or not. What is the percentage of vaccinated people are being effective, efficiently working? Okay, so all these narrative actually leads to this testing. So testing means in our case the measurement, and this measurement part is also very important, and that is why in our research, scientific research, our interpretation must be very, very clear. What you are interpreting, that should be clear, that should be in unambiguous form, and it should make a sense to organize the perceptions and careful scrutiny, logical, sequential, and the bias, either it is a applied research, either it is a basic research, exploratory kind of research, whatever research you undertake, the bias should be very, very less. Personal bias should not be there. Now, if you, as I said, the content analysis, sabka saath, sabka vikas, sabka vishwas, sabka prayas, this content, the popularity dimension, if we want to undertake a research, you should not have a bias. You may not agree with that particular content, but while undertaking the research of this content, you should actually focus on unbiasedness, and that is why the scientific methodology of undertaking the survey, which is basically non-experimental or experimental, of course, in our case, as I said, is basically descriptive. We cannot experiment. So it is a correlation kind of thing, some relation, causal, comparative, quasi-experiment. Sometimes we deal with quasi-experiment also, then experimental research, descriptive research, what is the purpose of our research, what is the observation, or what we have to observe, what we have to describe, what we have to document. This should be very, very clearly spelled out, right? You should be very, very focused on your description and collection of data. It provides description of individuals, groups, or situation, and there may be a closed question, there may be checklist, what is your name, there may be some open-ended questions, what is your income, age, so some kind of, characteristics of individuals and groups. We should be very, very, focused, and we should be very careful in dealing with this type of social survey while conducting survey for our own research, which actually explain the, as I said, relation between different variables. It is a kind of correlation. If one follow, what will be the, because it actually dealing with the cause and effect relationship. If price increases, the demand will goes down, right? If price decreases, demand will go up. So what kind of relation we are expecting? If vaccination increases, then automatically COVID-19 infection will be reduced. And it has been proved that vaccinations are increasing, COVID-19 disease infections are decreasing. So what kind of relation you are expecting, that you should actually decide a priori relation, a priori kind of decision. And it also to go beyond simply describing what exists, as I already analyzed, why, how, and who. These are also the questions which you need to look at while looking at your particular research. And because ultimately, as I said, some kind of cause and effect relationship we are attempting to establish. We are attempting to establish cause and effect relationship. And this relationship of then in the nature of our independent variable, in the nature of our dependent variable, income and expenditure. If we say if income, how income actually leads to effect on the expenditure. So income is a independent, dependent variable, and expenditure is a independent variable. So this kind of dependency and independentness we have to look at in identification of the causal, comparative, or even the correlational kind of thing, because we are looking at finding some kind of result, some kind of analysis, which actually leads to validate for the entire population segment. And experimental research use some scientific method to establish the cause and effect, some scientific method, some laboratory testing, some kind of randomization, and which for a particular researcher in the field of social sciences, in the field of humanities, in the field of languages, it is sometimes not possible on our part to do with this kind of experimental research. Now, as a researcher, one of the very important part of all these exercise is to draw your own decision tree. You have to draw your own decision tree to identify the important issues which is related to your particular research. And if you actually draw a decision tree, you will have to draw a decision tree. If you identify a particular problem on a particular topic, you are going for undertaking a research, you have to identify a decision tree. Is there a treatment? If the answer is no, is the primary purpose examination of relationship? That's how I said correlation. I mean, relation between two variables, independent or dependent variables, or among the set of independentness, dependentness among the causal relationship. Then if the answer is no, then we are looking at the descriptive design, because at the end of the day, you have to identify, you have to find out whether you are using descriptive method or a applied method or a explanatory method. You have to identify. And for this identification of this a particular type of research, which you are going to follow as part of your methodology, this decision tree, drawing of decision tree is very important. And this is very scientifically designed. You have to answer your own question. Question will be, devised by you, and answering will be given by you, and accordingly you devise. Now, if we come up with the question that yes, there is a kind of some relationship, then will the sample be studied as a single group? Then if the answer is yes, then we have to end up with correlational design. Then is there is a treatment? Yes, if the answer is yes, then is the treatment tightly controlled by the researcher? Do you have any control on your this particular topic? If the answer is yes, will a randomly assigned or selected control group be used? If the answer is yes, then you will end up with experimental design. As I said, we hardly undertake this type of, it is not possible for us to take up a experimental design. Now, if the answer is no, in most of the cases in our social science research, we end up with no kind of question, then quasi-experimental that we can take up by undertaking some of the methodology which are scientifically devised, and which we have to embrace both qualitative and quantitative, and in general, because if you can ask a question, should we actually concentrate on only qualitative research, or we should take up only a quantitative research? Which is the best? Which is the best? Answer is very interesting. In answering this question, basically, we have to combine, use qualitative research at the beginning of a research design process to uncover innovations, and use quantitative research at the end of a research design to process the measurement of your improvement. Okay, so basically we are combining. If you draw a research design, research tree, decision tree, in decision tree, you answer initial questions, and whatever decision tree I have shown, it is it is only a hypothetical in nature. You will have to have your own decision tree based on your research topic, based on your research paradigm, and actually you need to answer the question. And in the initial stage of the decision tree research questions, it leads to some qualitative research, qualitative aspect of the research, and at the end of the undertaking the research, you will end up with some quantitative techniques, because you need measurement. This measurement will actually lead to a scientifically designed conclusion. So a scientifically designed conclusion is basically a pluralist approach, which is, one of the very important approach in this particular type of undertaking a social research. Now, these methodological issues, you can end up in methodological issues with sampling versus complete enumeration. It is not possible for us as an individual researcher for complete enumeration. It is not possible. Random versus sampling design. So as I said, if your study is on some kind of applied research, we will definitely undertake some randomness. But if it is an exploration kind of thing with purposive method, purposive sampling, also you can, this is also scientific method. Don't think that purposive sampling is not scientific. It is also a scientific method, but you have to justify your purpose. You have to design a scientific justification of purposiveness. Then it is definitely a part of your purposive scientific purposive sampling. Randomization technique, there are some randomization technique. I'm just not going into details of this because this will be part of other lecture where your actually research design, who will deliver lecture on research design, he will definitely take up these important issues. I have just mentioned some of the important points in identification of a particular research, particular types of research, and key points, key takeaway, that quantification of data is the main purpose, which actually we have to examine the relationship among variables, and we have to determine the cause and effect interactions among the independent or dependent variable, and we have to allow generalizations of our results from a sample to the entire population, and also it actually deals with the measurement of the incidence of various views, and opinion of a given sample needs to be tested, needs to be validated. And this dealing with the data is very, very important, because sometimes it gives us misleading results. And that is why when we use data, why I am emphasizing on scientific survey, scientific design of survey, because it may lead to misleading results, because statistics sometimes lies. So that is why this data which you actually collect from the field, it needs to be properly treated. It needs to be properly cleaned. If you clean data, if you treat data, then these common types of misuse of statistics, faulty polling, that data visualization, fraud correlation, data phishing, this purposeful selective bias. So all these actually can be eliminated, and that is why this scientific treatment of data is very, very important. And for this scientific treatment, either if you use qualitative or you use quantitative data, technique, whatever you use, this observation of the entire process of this theory, hypothesis, research, observation, this paradigm is very important because ultimately we are using the theory to form a hypothesis. As I said, we especially emphasize on this particular context of this deductiveness, and then design a study to test hypothesis. Then we actually perform research. Then we actually create or modify the theory. Okay, what is our contribution? Our contribution as a researcher to the field of knowledge is to add the theory, modify on the basis of your finding. You can modify it. So this observation, this quantitative or whatever qualitative or quantitative aspect. So this observation should be very scientifically designed, and it should, if you look at some kind of naturalistic observation, some kind of the research technique methodology used in humanities, languages, then other branches of social sciences, where you look at your lab, nature is your lab. Okay, so entire nature is your lab. Since your nature is your lab, what you are doing, you are gathering data by watching the behavior, watching the events, and noting the physical characteristic in a natural setting. So that is why it should also involve some scientific way of recording the data, observing the behavior of the natural behavior, and ultimately you note down the physical characteristics in the natural setting. So there are three approaches in this type of observation. What we do: covert observation, overt observation, researcher participation. So the researcher, in case of covert observation, researchers do not identify themselves. Either they mix in with the subjects undetected, or they observe from a distance. Overt observational research, where researchers identify themselves as researcher and explain the purpose of their research. So many of the research, where we use covert observational research, where you don't identify yourself. You mix up with, say for example, you have to undertake a research on the drinking behavior in this pandemic situation. How to do that? So there are, of course, snowballing technique, and snowballing technique will lead to identification of some subjects of your choice, which you need to do. But in identification, if they identify you are not from the subject, they will not actually cooperate with you. So this type of covert observational technique, where you are not disclosing your identity. In case of overt observational technique, you are identifying yourself, you are explaining your purpose of observation. And researcher participates in what way they are observing, so as to get a finer appreciation of the phenomena. So this is a researcher participation, and you can see these overt, covert actions. So one way you are identified, you do not identify. So in this way, these observations, which may be direct, indirect, is not it in terms of these differences in covertness or overtness. So a direct observation, and automatically it comes up with the investigator watch interactions, processes, behavior, and observing a teacher teaching a lesson from a written curriculum to determine whether they are delivering it with effectiveness. So this is a kind of direct observation. You see, you are observing directly with a subject, then you can have direct, indirect observation where the processes behavior, we are actually from a particular distance and measuring the amount of, these are a number of, uh, um, examples you can take up from the social science, from the society. And that is the main important purpose of this type of workshop, that it should make a mark in your mind that what actually I am to do, what I am to do as part of a researcher. And this observation technique, which is again early part of the science itself, and it actually basically used to a dynamic to study a dynamic situation. And when you are trying to understand the ongoing process or processes of a situation, that dynamic situation you have to take up. And when you are gathering data on individual behavior, on interaction that already I have highlighted, and you when you need to know about the physical setting, and when data collection from individual is not a realistic option, that thereby you can actually focus on this observing or observation technique. And we know that these characteristics of some of the characteristics of these field research, which offers an orientation to understand our process and structure of social setting, because we are dealing with society, human being. Our laboratory is the nature. Okay, and when you are actually dealing with a particular section of the society, try to understand they are not ready to provide you data. Many times we see when the investigator actually visiting the house of a respondent, the respondents are not interested to provide data, because he knows that he is not interested for this particular particular observation, and why you will participate in this. So this is a challenge. This is really a critical challenge for to understand and the process, your data collection, your designing the research methodology in a scientific method, and you have to look at the explicit and tacit cultural knowledge. Say, for example, I have my own personal experience in visiting interior of a tribal village in the northeastern states, where you are not allowed to enter without the help of the local person or the permission of a Graubura. So you have to know the cultural knowledge of the particular situation. So in our survey, in doing our survey, we have contacted the Gaubura, we have contacted the village people, we have contacted the government official in different parts of the our field area, and accordingly we understand. First, we have to understand the cultural knowledge. What is the custom? What is the belief? What is the traditions of a particular group of people, which is actually a part of our research. I am undertaking a research on a particular subject, on a particular community, on a particular society, and I must have full knowledge about the traditions, about the belief. So you are not allowed to enter such villages. So you have to take help of the people, and we have taken help of such people while entering the villages, and ultimately our results are very noteworthy, because all of them, they participated in the discussion process. This is very interesting. Once you know that the tradition is that you are not allowed to enter a particular community, a particular village. But when they actually, when you enter with the help of someone in the village, when they understand you, when they have a knowledge about you, then why you are visiting, they all of them come together and they participate. And it will be very difficult in such situation to collect sample because all of them enthusiastically they want to volunteer as a sample respondent in such situation. So this paradigm is another very important issue on the community and the ethnic groups, on a particular community, on a particular group of people, which is a part of our research, and to understand the inside view of the reality, to focus on the particular setting, focus on the people, and that is why this particular issue of identification of the culture, the ethnography, and which is a very important understand to know the entire paradigm of data collection, research design, research methodology, and epistemology to understand the behavior, social behavior within the context of where it occurs. Because you should understand, you must understand that what I am going to undertake, some section of the society, some people, some human being, and I must understand the social behavior, epistemology, and that knowledge which actually ultimately gives to ontology the nature of reality which is observed. And ultimately, I am a interpreter, which I observe from that particular settings, from that particular situation, as I am now saying that the result which I have come across after reaching the interior villages in a tribal state, in a tribal community, where the beliefs, customs are completely different. But now I am interpreting a kind of ontology, a reality of the observed fact that our findings are very, very robust, and whereby the people have volunteered to be a subject in this entire situation. And this participant observation is very, very important in this entire issue, because ultimately the participant, as I said, you have to look at from that particular context of your understanding the social behavior and social norm, customs, and cultural belief. Now, many a times, what we actually start with understanding the 7-point characteristics of our social research, which is whether we have to understand the particular social setting, social reality. Is it conducted in natural setting? So is it conducted in natural setting? So that is very important. As I said, if I go to interior villages to undertake a particular study, if we go to a particular setting, natural setting, to see the behavior of the nature, so this particular, I should look at whether we are conducting it in a natural setting, whether it is done within the field site, whether it provides a holistic and systematic overview of the context, because your context is your subject, your context is your subject, your identification of the particular problem, answering the question which leads to hypothesis, which leads to research questions, your research questions, which is ultimately provides a particular narrative, a document narrative, which a particular perspective of that particular context, and is it descriptive or interpretive, whether interpretation what kind of interpretation you are going to undertake, and whether it is guided by general research questions or hypothesis. Because as I said, if it is a complete exploratory research, you will not come up with some hypothesis. You will end up with identification of some research questions. Okay, but if it is applied kind of things, then you will end up with some concrete hypothesis. Okay, and you have to focus on meaning the words and images rather than numbers. So that also another very important part of the entire exercise. In many times in our field research, we come across some of the peculiar answers, even in measurement. If you ask in an interior village, what is the amount of paddy you have grown in a particular field, in your field, to a particular farmer, they may have come up with the answer of a particular, in a particular local dialects, local measurements, which is not of your standard measurement. You should, and that is why, as I said, you should know about the local culture, local language, local traditions, local belief, measurement techniques, and then you actually convert it into scientific measurement techniques, ultimately, which is a part of your data tabulation, cleaning exercise, and these are tabulation exercise, cleaning exercise, analysis exercise. These are another part of the most fundamental issue of entire social scientific research, because ultimately what to do with this data, as I also focused initially, that is why these scientific statistical packages, which will actually help you in this data cleaning, data management, data tabulation, and leading to some answers of your questions that you actually devised already, and you need to answer these questions at the end of your conclusion. So in marketing and social science research, in the Department of Commerce, in the Department of Management Sciences, Management Studies, so we actually come up with marketing research, which are also part of the broad social science research and observational research, which this social research technique is basically involves direct observation of the phenomena in natural setting. So you are observing this a particular situation from a natural setting, and this issue of natural setting, which also a very particular important issue in the marketing research, and marketing research frequently use some kind of personal observation. Okay, if you undertake a research topic on an action research, a part of the applied research, a part of the explanatory kind of research, whereby you are actually using some kind of personal observation, observing the products to detect the pattern of consumption, to detect the expenditure pattern of a particular product and the problems encountered in it, observing the socio-economic status of the people, consumers, then the customers, the sellers, consumers, and determining the level of package scrutiny and determining the time it takes to make a purchase decision. All these are the part of the broad observation of the marketing research, and we actually end up with a mechanical kind of observation, audits, tracing the analysis, then ultimately the content. So content analysis is also very important part of this, and how you have to focus on your observation. Ultimately, you have to determine the focus. Your focus should be very specific, and then it design a system of data collection. You can use the recording sheets or checklist, your observation guide list, that is also very important. Then the field notes, as I said, that one of the very important exercise of scientific theory or scientific research, which is a proposed explanation and never a final explanation. And the aim of our social science is basically to establish theories, and the aim of science is to establish theories and then prove or disprove them. So basically, what we are doing, as I said, that the contents and ultimately you have to analyze, you have to conclude your summary, and that is why these field notes, these observation guide list, these recording sheets, which actually give you some of the very scientific methodological hands to select some of the important thrust area on your analysis, and then select the sites, select the observers, then train the observers. You have to, if you are using some research assistants, field investigators, you have to train them. Then what is the time? Now suppose these last 2 years, 2020 and 2021, in case of undertaking any social research, any behavioral pattern, we are actually in a pandemic situation. So it will not give you a conclusion which is actually in a normal, which is relevant for a normal period of time. So this is not a normal period of time. So since we are not in a normal period of time, so you give some room of your analysis, of your findings in the context of this background of this pandemic situation, and accordingly you devise your methodology that how much you have to take up from this particular lesson of which is not a normal period, and accordingly you re-exercise, redefine your entire methodological framework. And that is why many of our researchers, they are not in a situation to go to field for collecting the data from the field, and that is why when you are using Google Form, when you are using some kind of emails, sending questionnaire through emails, in that particular situation, you have to be very careful, because there will be personal bias of the respondent, which will be a part of the errors, because personal bias will be attached in that particular situation. And if you actually visit the site, if it is a normal period, many of the personal bias of the respondents will not be there, and will you can get rid of this personal bias if you personally visit a field. So these are very important issues which needs to be taken care of, because one of the very important advantage of this type of direct access to the social phenomena under consideration, and collecting data where and when an event or activity is occurring, you are actually collecting data from a particular site and does not rely on people's willingness or ability as part of the observation. If you follow the observation technique, and then you have the advantages, and you are allowing directly to see from the side. And if you look at this disadvantage of this type of observation technique, is very time consuming, and this is resource intensive, and it is not actually some kind of observer bias, subjective bias, you some kind of bias of the researcher will be there. So all these things you have to take a note of in kind of reliability and validity of the data gathered. So these are very important because in times of reliability of the data, validity of data in optimization, these you need to use proper scientific statistical tools to do away with this type of situation. And some participant non-participant by observation structure or actually unstructured observation, these are also being used in some uh, branches of social sciences or humanities. And in kinds in things where you are actually observer is invisible, and someone who attempts to observe people without interacting them, without the knowledge. So some kinds of branches of humanities, we actually allow this type of non-participant observation, but you should be very, very careful in dealing with the optimization of reliability. And in participant observation, observer participate, and observer may live with them. They may field research has been associated most strongly with participant observation, and we can use various kinds of observation techniques, field notes, some kind of electronic gadgets. As I said, in this situation of, in the age of computer technology, you can use many kinds of audio, photo, video recordings, interviews, conversations, and many other techniques. And these may be structured observation, unstructured observation, verbal observation. So these are all the important parts of your actually observation technique. If you actually rely on this observation technique, recording the events, recording the particular phenomena, and recording takes place in a structured manner. Recording may take place in an unstructured manner, just to record after the lessons. Record may introduce the bias, and there may be some verbal conversation with the subject. This also sometimes is being used. So in case of any field research, the selecting research setting, gaining access, presenting oneself, gathering information, and analyzing data, this data and formulating the theory, these are very important part of the exercise. And if you look at the both inductive and deductive methodologies, which in both the cases, you have to look at this data analysis, determine how you want to present, make a grounded theory, coding, sometimes we can use the coding, check the hypothesis, and with this, actually, we come up with the identification of our basic issues relating to the types of the research, which is very, very important issues. So I think some of the questions which are given in the chat box, I understand my time is also limited, but let me take some of the questions. Now, one question which is raised, given in the chat box about the difference between multi-stage and stratified random sampling. Of course, this is not a part of discussion in this particular presentation, where I actually looked at the broad type of research type, but there are in the research design, you have to look at the multi-stage and stratified random sampling. In stratification, actually we use some stratum. Okay, we use some stratum. Say for example, rural area, urban area. Now, if you undertake a particular research topic on a particular problem, identification of the problem, and where you need sample from both rural area and urban area. So you take a priori decision that yes, I will take some from rural area, I will take some from urban area, some data, I mean, some respondent. So your stratum will be rural area, your stratum will be from urban area. So in multi-stage sampling is basically follows different stages. Okay, in the first stage, you select which is the entire sample site. After taking sample site, now in this multi-stage sampling, you have to purposefully note down that you should take sampling both from urban area and rural area. So it is a broad nature, I mean, kind of thing, and I am sure that in the lecture on research design, sampling design itself is a broad area, and you need a specific focus on the sampling design topic, whereby the different types of sampling technique will be taken up. Then I think I have come up with another question, this pluralist approach. Pluralist approach, as I said, it is a combination of both qualitative and quantitative. You have to use both the methods, qualitative methods and the quantitative method. So if you combine them, as I have given a detailed account on it, that in your first stage of research design, you focus on some qualitative aspect, end up with some quantification, use of some quantitative tools, then you can combine, and then you can use this pluralist approach. How we can design sample size, this is again itself, we need one particular session. There are different scientifically designed methodology for sample size determination. Nowadays, we have also come across with some statistical software which actually identifies sample size, and I am sure that as part of the sample design, research design, this sample size determination will be taken care of. Since I have ended and time is very precious, you have another class session, I'm sure. So thank you very much. Over to the coordinator, Dr. Dipjyoti Chaudhary.
Thank you, Niranjan sir, for your excellent deliberation and in-depth study of the entire topic on epidemiology research. So few questions are still coming out. I can find in the chat box. If you can, sir, please make their query. Like one question is there. I'm working on migration of rickshaw pullers. Can you suggest me what kind of research method I can use for data analysis? Sir, your audio is not there, please.
Yes. The chat box was actually closed. Yes, this is a very interesting research topic. Migration of rickshaw pullers, and I'm sure it is a kind of exploratory research which you will be undertaking, and you have to end up with some research questions, and you have to identify a particular area, because whom you are to target, and you have to find out some rickshaw pullers where you can use some snowballing approach, and with this snowballing approach you will definitely come up with a list of rickshaw pullers, and accordingly you can undertake a descriptive kind of research, exploratory kind of research. So I think, yeah. I think all other questions, there are no relevant questions, and I am sure that there will be a specific session on sample size, which is a very important issue. You actually devote one full session on sample size determination, because if your sample is not scientifically designed, then the whole exercise of your research will lead to a misleading conclusion. And that is why one full session on particular sampling design is required. Okay, thank you. Thank you,
sir.
Dibjyoti.
I please request Mr. Rohit to give the vote of thanks. Rohit Kumar ji, are you there? Rohit Kumar ji. I think Mr. Rohit Kumar is having some problems. Can anyone give a vote of thanks for respected Professor Niranjan Roy?
Good morning, sir. I am audible, sir.
Yeah, you are audible, clear. Please continue.
Good morning, Niranjan, sir. Thank you so much. I express my sincere myself, Rohit Kumar, a research scholar, LPU, and I express my sincerely thanks to Niranjan, sir, for to enlighten us the different approach of research, sir, either historical or either case studies, sir. I also express my sincerely thanks to Professor Nath, sir, VC, and other dignitaries of Department of Business Administration for giving us the opportunity to enhance our knowledge in terms of research. And I sincerely thanks to Deep Jyoti sir also for providing me opportunity for this. Thank you so much, Niranjan sir, for enlightening us, sir.
Thank you, Rohit ji. Thank you, Professor Niranjan Roy. I hope that whenever required, I'll be taking your help to address such sessions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dibjyoti.
So, dear participants, we are again coming back to 12:15. So, we'll start our next session at 12:15. So, 15-minute break is there. So, please join at 12:15. Thank you.